Welcome everyone. Today we're making one of my favorite recipes. It's my chicken and sausage jambalaya recipe. I don't know if you have been here very long, but if you're new here or if you just haven't watched one of these videos, I mentioned in a lot of them that I'm Cajun. I grew up in South Louisiana where Tabasco sauce was made, and this recipe I can hand to God vouch that it is an authentic Cajun jambalaya recipe. Um, I sometimes also comment on the pronunciation of words. Jambalaya is the pronunciation for this dish. It's not jambalaya. Please don't say that. It's not made out of jam. So this recipe, I use a rice cooker because I find it a lot easier. I find that A, you don't have to stand there, watch the pot and stir, which is what you have to do with rice on a stove. And then B, you I guess that's it. Just A. You don't have to do all that work. I think also the rice doesn't burn as easily. Well, most rice cookers wouldn't burn the rice as easily. There are some cheap ones out there. So for this recipe, you're going to start by putting 4 tablespoons of a vegetable oil in the rice cooker. If you're using a stovetop recipe, or if you're cooking this on the stove, I would say just make sure your pot is about as big as this. This one is, I want to say 12 quarts. Does that make sense? No, 20 cups. That's what it is, not quarts. 20 cups. And then you're going to dice 1/2 of a white onion and put it in the rice cooker. When you're throwing the vegetables in, you do want to turn on the rice cooker to whatever the low temperature is, if there is one. Quick rice is a setting that mine has. I turn it on quick rice when I'm cooking the vegetables. So you want to saute the onion and the bell pepper next in the rice cooker or on your stove. Stir the onions a bit so that the oil coats them fairly well, and then you can turn on the rice cooker to a low setting to try to simmer this and saute it. Then you'll dice 1 green bell pepper and try to get the seeds and ribs out as much as you can. And then stir the bell peppers so that the oil coats them pretty well and continue to simmer that. If you ever wonder why I'm not a vegan or a vegetarian, Cajun food is why. I do make a lot of vegan food and I do enjoy it, but I would have a much lower quality of life if I didn't eat Cajun food at all. It's a big part of my culture. It's like the only thing I really feel connected to about Louisiana. Haven't lived there since I was in my early 20s, and there's a lot about Louisiana that is awful. But the cuisine is one thing that is something I'm proud of, and I like being able to make authentic recipes. I did try to make red beans and rice once with, I'm not sure what the sausage was made out of, but it was vegan sausage and it was really, really bad. So maybe there's better vegan sausage now. I tried this back in 2013. So hit me up in the comments if you know of a really good vegan sausage that tastes either like beef smoked sausage or andouille sausage. Next, you're going to get 2 cloves of garlic. You'll see I have a bunch of tiny cloves. So garlic's one of those ingredients that it doesn't matter if you put too much, it still tastes great. So I kind of like threw a bunch of tiny little pieces of garlic together. Mince the garlic and then add that to the rice cooker as well. Again, stir so that you get some oil on the new ingredient and then let it simmer. Then take 1 chicken breast and cut that into bite-sized pieces. Growing up, grammatically correct would be when I was growing up, my mom made jambalaya a completely different way. She did use a rice cooker, which is probably why I started using a rice cooker to make this. I think I just thought that was how you did it. But she didn't put chicken in hers. Hers, if you want to make my mom's recipe, it's exactly the same as mine, except there's no bell pepper. And instead of chicken, you will drain a can of green beans and drain a can of black-eyed peas and put those in the rice cooker along with your sausage. I don't know why there's beans in her jambalaya. It was very good, but I think this recipe is more authentic. I've literally never seen my mom's version at a restaurant or anywhere besides her house. So I don't know where she came up with that, but she thinks her recipe is better than mine. And you tell me in the comments, is she wrong or am I wrong? Then add the chicken breast to the rice cooker and stir it so that the oil coats that and then let that simmer. If you're making this on a stove, I would say at this point, make sure you lower your heat to pretty darn low, because if it's too high, the chicken will it will get a little bit rubbery and not very good. This was my first time using Zatarain's andouille sausage. Andouille is the pronunciation for that word, in case you're curious. My husband still can't say it right, and my ex-husband also could never say it right. They grew up in the Midwest for reference. Anyway, the andouille sausage from Zatarain's was amazing. I will definitely buy it again if it's a good price. It was on sale for like $2 a package at my local Kroger, so I got this one in order to make this recipe. One package of sausage is fine. I think this one was 14 ounces. My recipe says 1 pound, but sausage never comes in that large of a package, I don't think. And then you're going to slice it into, I've heard people say coins, but they're just round slice it. You can slice it diagonally if you want. I prefer this size just because it's easier to put in my tiny mouth. I also try to get it pretty thin so I have lots of sausage to potentially eat. The thicker the sausage that you cut, the fewer actual sausages there are in your plate or bowl when you're actually eating it. And I like to have as much sausage as possible, so I make it thin. You can also, if you don't have access to andouille sausage or if it's crazy expensive, you can buy beef smoked sausage. I think as long as there's pork, chicken, and beef in it, I believe is what the Hillshire Farms beef smoked sausage usually consists of. That is what I usually use, and that is quite tasty as well. Then add all the sausage to the rice cooker and stir so that the oil coats the food. You get the idea. now we're going to add the rice. And one thing about this recipe is you do want to cook the rice with all of the other ingredients, even if you're using the stovetop method, because the rice needs to absorb all of the juice from the meat in order to taste correct. You're going to put 2.5 cups of rice, whatever kind you like. I typically use long grain when I'm doing white rice. This is brown rice, which also is long grain. Brown rice needs to be cooked longer than white rice, so you're going to see me later on have this going for 60 minutes. White rice is closer to 35 or so minutes. Your rice cooker should have an indicator for both. And then you're going to add water. The ratio for white rice is 2 cups of water to 1 cup of dry rice. For brown rice, it's 2.5 cups of water for 1 cup of rice. Then you'll add salt and pepper to taste. And the other spices are all to taste as well. You're going to add whatever kind of dry Cajun type seasoning you have. Maybe you just have cayenne. Maybe you do have a Creole branded seasoning like me, or a Cajun branded seasoning, which is basically, if you want to make your own, it's cayenne, pepper, black salt, and garlic. And that's basically Cajun seasoning. I also have this Louisiana hot sauce made in my hometown. I like adding liquid sauce to this recipe. It also, I think, absorbs into the rice better and makes the rice more flavorful. And then stir that well and cook it for whatever the time should be for the kind of rice you used. Stovetop method, keep your eye on it all the time and cook it low. All right, here's the finished jambalaya, and I can still remember how good this smelled.
Jambalaya.
No, Newman, jambalaya is not a soup. So you'll see it's definitely more of a stew or a casserole, I guess a rice casserole. It should not be liquidy at all if you use the right amount of water. And you can see the rice did turn a little bit tan from the seasoning and from the juice from the meat. You do want that. Creole jambalaya is a little different. There is an ingredient of tomatoes in this as well. They use tomatoes, Cajuns don't, but it will make the rice a little bit pinker or redder. So that might be an option if you want to try that. All right, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this recipe. I loved making it, and I sure as hell loved eating it. That sausage was the bomb. I will be buying that again. Please like, share, and subscribe, and tell me what else you want to see.